Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I'm really happy to give you some insights about today's topic. Actually, I have already a correction. Even my Korean is very poor, but level 4 is not only level 4, it's also level 3 included. And so just in order to avoid here any misunderstanding. Okay. What I want to present you today is a structured following. So first of all, I will give you some insights, what this presentation is all about, of course. So I'm in the middle of that point. I will give you an overview about the contents of the AFGBV. AFGBV is a term you already heard several times also by my previous speaker, Benjamin. He mentioned it, so it's very essential directive in Germany. I will also tell you a little bit more about, especially focusing on the section 16, the prototype approval, because I think this is the very relevant one and could be somehow a fast lane in order to bring automated vehicles on public roads for testing purpose. Then I will go into the process and the progress. So how it should be implemented, what are the major steps, and finally we will close with a Q&A session. So my presentation will be a little bit more concrete on a specific topic. So therefore I'm quite optimistic that we can meet the time expectations and also have some time then afterwards in order to go into discussions. Yeah, then let's start. Main pillars for testing. The main pillars for testing are a little bit extended compared to the previous one, which we know from the traditional world of homologation, because the technology comes along with level 2+, 3, 4, and so on. Technology is much more complex. And you cannot only do the testing on the proving ground. It's no longer sufficient, so you have to add additional pillars in order to validate the system performance and to ensure system safety. Everything starts now with the simulation. Simulation is a very also complex topic. It's one essential part, or most probably one essential part, in order to create safety cases. Then, of course, the middle layer is the proving ground. So still also for that complex new technology coming along, proving ground testing will be essential in order to really then also validate the performance of that vehicles. And last but not least is also real road testing. And this, I marked it orange because this will be the focus topic of today, because I'm not talking only about homologation, but the purpose for real road testing is also during the development. In order to use vehicles for real road testing, you need to get somehow an approval process allowing you as a manufacturer or as a tier to operate your test vehicles on public roads. And I believe, especially in Korea, as companies are allocated here, they have somehow the processes, they know the way to get some exemptions, so they know the way to get some test permission. But maybe, and not maybe, is that it will be not sufficient to test the vehicle only in Korea. So you also have to go into other roads. So that means you have to access other countries in order also to collect and record miles on other roads in order to also get ensured that the safety system, the system safety is somehow fulfilled in a certain way according to your specific requirements. And especially in Germany, you know that I'm from Germany, so I will also promote a little bit as ambassador of today for Germany in order to promote this kind of system Germany has in place, because I made somehow this year the experience that just a few manufacturers allocated outside of Germany knows about this way. And I'm promoting this now because I personally convinced that this is a really good way without having a lot of administrative stuff around to bring prototype vehicles on German roads and do somehow the prototype testing under real road conditions. So this is really something after that presentation, you should really have a positive feeling and be motivated in order to apply for that. Yeah? Because the number of applications is still very limited. Our German approval authority mentioned that only just around 10 applications so far were registered. So this is really a good opportunity to be one of the first starters and apply for, and then also go live somehow. And in order to give you even more motivation, just in order showing you the road network of Germany. It's just the picture on the right-hand side is just describing the Autobahn, the famous German Autobahn, unlimited speeds limits. But this is actually not the main purpose for autonomous vehicle testing. But the length of the Autobahn in Germany is 13,000 kilometers around. The total length, of course. Then we have federal roads, which is 37 or almost 38,000 kilometers. Then we have provincial state roads, which are 86,000 kilometers long. We have country roads with a total length of 91,000 kilometers, or almost 92,000. And we have the big chunk of the rest. And why I'm saying this? Because if you go from top level, Autobahn, it's very clearly defined, it's standardized, it's very clear what is the length, what is the width of the road, what is the width of the lanes, what are the markings on the road surface, etc. Everything is standardized. You can somehow buy the requirements or the standards and then implement this also in the specification of the ADS. If you go down, federal roads is also something which is still very good standardized, and you will not find a lot of exemptions on the roads. But if you go down on the provincial, state, country roads, and especially the big rest, this is not standardized. So here you will get a lot of surprises if you be on the road. And also the ADS is somehow, or it's difficult to put this already in without being there and really doing the test and collecting the mileage, doing mileage accumulation. And this is also something which is giving a lot of pressure to the development teams to consider all of that aspects without having real data. And with this kind of test permit, it's possible to really go on the road because one of the big advantages, it's not limited to certain areas, or the ODD itself is not limited by the direct itself. So in general, the applicant can apply for each and every kilometer of which is listed up here out of that 830,000 in total. So this is definitely something which is also giving good opportunities for testing. It's a test permit. That means the vehicle itself can be a prototype. It can be whatever vehicle, so it's in general not limited, and therefore the OEM usually different vehicles are used depending on which stage of the development they are. We are talking about, of course, prototypes in Germany. The nickname of prototypes is Erlkönig, so one of you already heard that term. We are talking about pre-series vehicles, so if you have a running production vehicle, already this can be used. And also for component development, which are the main motivations, of course, from the OEM level. But it's not limited to OEMs, so it's also for the non-OEMs or tiers, which are in the middle of the development of component systems or whatever. Also for them, it's possible to apply for the test permit according to AFGBV, which also can be used by them for the component development, doing some sensor validations, system design support, etc., etc. So this is somehow what it's all about in order to get real driving experience with prototype vehicles on German roads. So now we are diving into AFGBV. Some of you which were listening carefully to Benjamin's explanation were wondering why Germany has a different directive, even they are member state of the EU, because there's the higher level hierarchy of the EU, which they have, or the EU has a specific regulation available for EU vehicles, while German, as a EU member state, has an own directive. Doesn't make sense. The reason for that is just that Germany, as a country, and also our government, wanted to be the first starter in order to enable AVs to be operated on roads, and they started to develop a directive. In meantime, also EU recognized, oh, they are behind Germany, and they speed it up. And so the development of the AFGBV and the EU equivalent was more or less in parallel. And both of the different regulators were working in parallel. And the only reason was that Germans' AFGBV, the development took longer, and therefore it's still existing, because in general the overlap between the two are so big that actually there's no main motivation for AFGBV anymore, except the test permit, because on the European level there is no possibility to apply for a test permission. This is one important aspect. So here the AFGBV gives a very strong opportunity. Very briefly, in general, so we are not only focusing now on the test permit. This slide shows more or less an overview about the AFGBV in total. And the main purpose, of course, is not to homologate test vehicles, but the main purpose is to homologate an unlimited series production. And here, compared to EU level, it's not limited. So you can approve somehow unlimited amount of vehicles. There is also no limitation for the vehicle category, while for EU level, of course, it's limited to M and N. And also the operating areas is somehow under control, and it's implemented. Yeah? And if you also remember the explanation for the operational permission, it's already implemented in AFGBV, so you don't have to apply separately. It's also already implemented. The main puzzle pieces I will not bore you, because this is pretty much the same also on European level and as it is here for the AFGBV. Once again, this is the overall AFGBV if I apply for a whole vehicle type approval. So this will be not necessary for the test permit, as test permit is somehow more like a shortcut, which has only very essential ingredients and not the whole scope. So the requirements for the test permit are lower than for the unlimited series approval. Just in order to allocate, so this is, you don't have to remember all of this. The focus is just here on section 16, describing the test permission. Yeah, and the AFGBV is also a public document, so you can also download it for free on the internet. Unfortunately, also like Korean requirements, it's just available in German language, but in the meantime there are a lot of English translation already done. So in worst case, you can also ask ChatGPT or Google Translator to do the job. So the key aspects of the AFGBV is, of course, functional safety. Yeah, so and this now also is relevant for the test permit, because for functional safety, it's one essential ingredient for the AFGBV. Important is to identify, of course, the hazards, the assessment of the risks, the implementation, and the measures for the mitigation of that risks. It's very clear. So the developer of that vehicle has to understand what are potential hazards and risks and put somehow mitigation measures into the development in order to go along with them. Second is the performance. So the vehicle itself should be capable to detect and avoid obstacles, and of course having the ability to follow the traffic rules and take over of control to the operator in case of any kind of emergency or detection for out of ODD, etc. Number 3, cybersecurity. As all of you know, that it's an essential part that these vehicles are connected to the environment, they are connected to the vehicles, to other vehicles, etc., etc. So this is always, of course, the root cause for potential cyber attacks, and this one is also something which has to mitigate it during the development. Another important aspect is the human-machine interaction, means the ADS with the passengers, but also the ADS to the rest of the world outside. So this is also something which is quite important, and also, of course, part of the AFGBV. Another aspect summarizing the AFGBV is the testing and the validation. As also here, specific test plans and the multi-pillar approach are implemented in the AFGBV. And last but not least, of course, is the documentation, as the evidences are just as good as the documentation is. Yeah? So this is definitely something which is one of the key aspects, and which I also want to follow on with the next slides, because now I want to go a little bit deeper into the application process of the test permit. So now we left the full scope AFGBV and just concentrating on the test permission. And I will not go through all the SAE levels from 0 to 5. I think all of you are familiar, at least somehow. The most important, or the point I want to refer on, is the different colors. From here, green up to level 2, whatever it means, level 2 plus, and then orange from level 3. Because the scope of application of AFGBV is starting from level 3. And that means if you want to test a vehicle on Germany, it's not only an opportunity to apply for a test permission according to AFGBV, it's mandatory. So the regulation and the regulators in Germany are prohibiting the possibility to test vehicles under the scope of the manufacturer development cost. So just very briefly, so in Germany, a vehicle manufacturer and also a tier can get somehow a general test permission, and then it's up to the vehicle manufacturer or the system or component developer to test according to their own responsibility. Yeah? This one is not possible. If the vehicle functionality is level 3 or higher, then an official test permit has to be applied. And I know, and this is actually was the motivation for me to put this topic on today's agenda, because a lot of clients and potential clients of us are scared about applying for a test permit, and then they are just limiting the scope of the system. And that means they are just using the AVs as a data collector in order to record data, etc. But they are not using the full functionality. And this is something which is possible, but not recommendable, because it's a very difficult path, I would say. Because here, of course, the driver always has to be in the loop, and the driver attention warning system has to be active. So this is a very important aspect. Otherwise, it's no longer considered as a level 2+, but then it's considered as a level 3 and higher. And then, of course, the manufacturer and the developer, the tier developer, need to apply for the test permission. So this is just one boundary condition. It's not only an opportunity, it's a must if level 3 wants to be operated on German roads. So, and now I want to go into the topic itself. So the idea is now to give you really a step-by-step manual, what is to do in order to apply for a test permission. Yeah, in order to make it as easy as possible, that there is no excuse afterwards, because the system itself is really easy and really something which there is no administrative obstacle in order to go through this process. We are starting here on the very left side with the application for the test permit, and after the presentation we're ending up with a hopefully ID test permit. And I hope that I get through all of that important points, that you have somehow no questions afterwards. So we start with a test permit application, which is actually just a paper. You just can download it from KBA webpage. 3 pages. You just have to fill it out with very general information. It's nothing special, or you don't have to give any secrets here. Important, some basic facts. So the responsible authority in Germany is the Kraftfahrtbundesamt, also well known as the KBA. E1 approval authority, so they are in charge for the approval process. Unfortunately, as it is a German national test permit, no other EU approval authorities can do that. So you have to collaborate here with KBA. Another point is the application has to be done for every individual vehicle. So it's not possible to apply a test permission for a series vehicles, but you have to apply for each and every vehicle identification number. But even from the technical perspective, you just have to copy paste, of course, the evidences, because it's if there are no different technologies involved, of course, the same application can be used twice or 3 times or whatever. But it's important to use separate applications for every individual vehicle. The validity is 4 years for the test permission. Only in case special exemptions, then maybe it can be shortened than 4 years. But in general, maximum period is 4 years and can be still extended for another 2 years. It's an online application form. It's actually just nothing special, I guess. And one important point is you may have concerns that if this is the first contact with the German approval authority, that you have to get through an initial assessment process or something like that. This is definitely not the case. So there is another application which has another 3 or 4 pages. We are also again giving some basic informations, but there will be no audit from the approval authority. There will be no special COP measurement requests or something like that. So it's pretty easy to start and apply at the approval authority in order to get somehow the status of the tester. Documents shall be provided in PDF, except there are some other technical documentation which are not suitable in order to be represented by PDF format. Then, of course, other formats are accepted as well. But I think, in general, PDF, you're also well known. One important information is that in KBA there was a special there was the founding of a special department for that. So this kind of applications are not going through the standard departments in KBA, but here for AV applications they go through a special founded department, which higher expertise is bundled there, which also can be used because during the development, of course, there will be a lot of questions maybe coming up, and here's the possibility to use the whole knowledge of the German approval authority, of course, together with the technical service. Yeah, then this is one important fact. We are starting with the request of an individual or type-approved basic vehicle. So this is one important aspect of the application of a test permit, that the vehicle, the basic vehicle, has to be approved. Individually, serious production, so either there is a COC document available, or there is an individual approval made by TÜV SÜD or any other of our TÜV colleagues. This is the basis. So that means whatever changes or modifications are made afterwards, the vehicle itself, the base vehicle itself, has to be approved. And this is something, I show you just this example, again with the Ioniq 5 and the equivalent from Motional, that the basic vehicle, in our case, the Ioniq 5, has to be approved according to whatever. If it's a European type approval, or is it just an individual vehicle because already some kind of modifications are made. So if the vehicle itself is not 100% equivalent to a type approved one, an individual approval can be made, but it's important that this individual approval is already made. So this is just one prerequisite in order to go through this process. The rest of may you're just wondering because it's maybe hardly readable. These are the requirements of the 2018 858 for the whole vehicle type approval. So every box here represents one technical aspect which has to be approved in order to bundle it all together in a type approval. So this is somehow necessary in order to go to the next step. The qualification of the involved stuff. So this is now going through this just once again. These are the documents and these are the evidences which should be put in a PDF format and sent to KBA. Yeah? And this is now really giving very clear understanding what is somehow necessary. So first of all, we need an organizational structure, an organizational chart, what kind of persons, what kind of scope they are representing, and also describing the different roles and responsibilities of that. This is just in order to ensure that the people involved in the development of the vehicles are having sufficient understanding, sufficient competences, and also will be used as an evidence in order also to double check on the development culture and the development performance. As an addition, existing training documents for the safety driver, on-site technical supervisions can be submitted as evidence, because the safety driver or the technical supervisor are an essential part for the safety argumentation. Yeah, because we are not talking about here for fully developed serious production vehicles, but we are talking here about prototypes which may at the beginning some limited functionalities and also limited operational scope. And in order to cover that from the safety perspective, maybe safety responsibilities are taken over by the safety driver or by any kind of technical supervisor, which is more or less observing from outside of the vehicle. But in general, the vehicle can be operated without safety driver. Yeah? This is a very important aspect. So there's no limitation. But of course, in case for safety argumentation reasons, a safety driver can be implemented, but it's not mandatory, depending on what is the test purpose, what is the development purpose, what are the goals, development goals in that sense. Next document, what is necessary in order to bundle the information is the description of the development process. Description of management process includes the specification of the duration of the requested tests. Yeah, we need somehow a time plan. What is expected? What kind of tests? So what is the overall time frame? Where is the testing, etc. Specifications planned for software updates, hardware updates, etc. So the authority want to get an idea what is the overall development goal in that phase for that specific test permit. So this is, they want to have some insight, what is really the purpose for the testing, what is the motivation for the testing, and what should be the outcome of the testing. Yeah, and also an important factor is, of course, the permanent monitoring of the testing. This is also something which is one crucial aspect. So the approval authority is expecting that the test applicant is permanently monitoring also the test phases and also reporting then accordingly, which is a special aspect also in that sense. If you remember that the basic vehicle is approved, then one important aspect is that the basic vehicle is the one side, but the modified vehicle is the other side. So starting from the approved basic vehicle, the approval authority wants to see what are the modifications done. So what kind of sensors, what kind of architecture is implemented in order to cover the driving task, in order to cover the ADS functions. And this is something which has to be stated. And for that, for those of you who already have homologation experience, this is like the information folder with a good description, what kind of sensors are added, what are the system functionality, how it is embedded, and how the whole architecture of that vehicles look like, just in order to give really a basic understanding about the functionality of that. Some of you are concerned because usually this kind of information was highly confidential and very sensitive to treat. Of course, for that kind of test permit applications, this kind of information will be treated with very care, a high level of care. So no one will, this information will be, of course, not public available and also only shared within the related stakeholders. Yeah, now it's getting important because I think everyone who is in touch with that technology knows about the opportunity, but also the risk of the ODD, the operational design domain. And this is, of course, comes along with the definition of the operating area, because by directive there is no limitation. As I mentioned, you can select all 830,000 kilometers of German roads and go for testing there. But then, of course, you have to specify under which condition. So weather conditions can be, for example, some definitions, etc. So the approval authority wants to have a plan or understanding under which conditions, under which you want to test. And this is definitely then something where you have to find most probably or start first with a geofenced area under certain condition you want to test in order to achieve this or that development goal. And this one is somehow expected also here. So you have to provide someone an overview about the supported road types, the supported driving maneuvers, the supported speed ranges, eventually also external conditions which are limiting the system functionality, and of course the specific description of the testing area. So that means in general, these are of course the boundary condition, but in general I put Munich as an example because it's very attractive city environment for AV testing. So there are already several AV manufacturers using Munich as a test field, which is of course also a nice opportunity for us to support here and being involved and engaged in that applications. So the next topic is the description of the ADS functions, because ODD of course has a strong influence on the test functions or on the ADS functions. And here the expectation is a clear description of the driving functions, also a clear plan for the range of functions, so until which kind of boundary or parameter range they are being active, and when and also over the testing period. So you have, if some kind of functions are activated over time, you have to give at least a planning on that, what your plan, what will be your plan in order to activate these driving functions over the testing period. Of course, maybe the question is, what if this or that will be changed and then we have to update KBA all the time? No, of course not. Only in case fundamental changes are happened and the overall test goal and the development goal will be changed, then somehow the approval authority has to be informed. But of course, minor changes are everyday life and don't have to be updated case by case. So the next topic is the most complicated one, because the manufacturer has to prove the compliance with state of the art. And then the question comes up, what is state of the art? There's a difficult question because for some aspects, and Benny mentioned one of them, is if you have the conflict for the positive risk balance and the safety case approach. Both are somehow state of the art, and there is no request from the approval authority what kind of approach you have to go for. But there are some specific requirements for the technical supervision. Technical supervision means the vehicle itself, of course, is not allowed to be operated without any technical supervisor. And the question is now, what is the ADS functionality? Everything together with the ODD, both pays in the functionality and also will then also have impact on the safety argumentation. So that means, is a driver necessary? Is maybe the safety person can sit on the passenger seat, or even external supervision is possible. So this depends on the functionality and also depends on the ODD, and depends, of course, also on the development strategy and also development goals. Also, once again, here important is the qualification of the safety staff and the supervisor. There's a special requirement implemented in the AFGBV where it is clearly written what kind of qualification is necessary. Just to give a brief insight. So it's, for example, necessary that the lead supervisor is at least engineer level, bachelor engineer level, has 3 or 4 years experience, and some other aspects, and basic training about the technology of the vehicle, etc. So these kind of things are necessary and they have to be proved by the applicant. Next topic is the fallback strategy. Of course, there should be a clear strategy for in case the vehicle comes to the border of ODD or detect any failure rates or something like that, that there is a clear strategy. And also the system, so how the system reacts in the event of overriding or deactivation. Also here for human-machine interfaces, here a clear explanation and documentation is necessary about the HMI, which is used in the test vehicle. So second part of the compliance with state of the art is, of course, the test strategy. As already mentioned, but important here, the description of the individual test phases, including definition of the milestones, and of course overall then the test duration, what is expected. The automation level, just for completeness, so in case you start road testing with maybe the scope of level 3 functionality, but later on you want to expand it to level 4 functionality, also this one has to be stated in the development process, which will be part of the application. Safety, of course, and so this is also coming back to one of the differences, because the AFGBV is explicitly requesting to fulfill, is maybe a little bit, so for whole vehicles, it's fulfillment of ISO 26262 and the SOTIF equivalent 21448. in case of test vehicles, it's not. So, of course, the process itself and the methodology of development should be in accordance to functional safety and SODIF. But in case some of aspects cannot be fulfilled because of development, because of prototype status, etc., specific exemptions can be granted. Yeah? So this is then really case by case will be decided on what is the argumentation from the manufacturer. So what kind of fulfillment can be achieved with that specific level of that development stage. Yeah, and as mentioned, permanent monitoring is necessary, and also collecting the related data and events. So it's not only that the vehicle manufacturer or the tier developer want to learn out of the testing, it's also that the approval authority wants to learn. And for that, the provision of data and events is necessary in order to always continuously further develop this process of test permission, but also at the later point of time of the series type approval. So it's somehow necessary to provide the description of the data protection and data security measures, data storage location, including information on data security in the event of an accident, also data backup concept, etc., protection against unauthorized access, the capability to store the requirement data, as there will be a giant amount of data, and the data format, in which format the data will be provided, and the verification concept. And why this is necessary? Because it's somehow the crucial part, as there will be no specific requirements on the UNEC 155. So cybersecurity is not mandatory during the test permission. And this one is also to ensure somehow that at least the collected data from the test vehicles are protected in a certain way. Yeah, and that's actually all. Yeah, that's all. Nothing more is necessary in order to apply for. And some of you wonder, oh, that is, of course, it's not nothing, but it's also not on the same level like a type approval. And this is also, this test permission, according to section 16, is giving a realistic scenario in order to test vehicles on the public road in Germany. And you know, during the last weeks, there was somehow the approval from San Francisco city government that they in general allow to operate vehicles even on a commercial way in San Francisco. And Germany is maybe not that aggressive, but they are allowing now 24/7 testing on German roads. And this is also, I would say, a very good opportunity. The question is now, if you ask me how long it will take from application to final permission, it depends on how quick this kind of documents can be prepared. And in general, based on our experience, it can be very quick process. So quick process means around 2 months is a realistic scenario. Yeah. So if you look on the homepage, KBA is not giving any kind of commitment, but based on our experience, if the documentation level is good enough, an approval process within 2 months is more than realistic.